Each autumn over the last 4 decades, the cities of Washington, D.C. and Dallas have waged pro football's epic battle of the Old West. Cowboys versus Redskins, a modern-day range war, and the NFL's fiercest feud.
That was as intense as any rivalry, and the memories of that series probably stay with me more than any other series that I've been associated with since I became a broadcaster and stopped being a player.
The give is to Larry Brown. Brown gets one block behind Carrollway and breaks a tackle at the 15-yard line. Brown will go into the end zone for a touchdown.
In terms of the evolution of the sport, I have to think that the personalities of Tom Landry and George Allen and the success of those two teams had a lot to do with making the sport as popular as it was in the 70s and on into the 80s.
Roger going deep for Drew down the sideline. Caught to the 5. Touchdown, Dallas Cowboys.
I think this was the best rivalry in football. I believe it was good for the NFL to have the tremendous rivalry between Dallas and the Washington Redskins, and that's still going on.
Back goes Aikman again. Good protection this time. Up over the top, Alvin Walton picks it up on the 29. He's back to the far side, 15, 10, 5. It's a touchdown. Washington Redskins defense.
It's been a series with as many plot twists and memorable characters as a Louis L'Amour Western. The rivalry began in 1960 with the formation of the new Dallas franchise. The Cowboys weren't expected to be competitive on the field, but their existence did endanger the lucrative Southern radio network of the Redskins and their owner, George Preston Marshall. To keep Dallas from disrupting his broadcasting empire, Marshall refused to vote them into the league. Such stubbornness almost cost Marshall his beloved team fight song.
To the Redskins, hail, victory, race on the warpath, fight for ODC.
But the rivalry honestly really started when George Marshall, I think, the former owner of the Washington Redskins, did not want to award the Dallas Cowboys the franchise here in Dallas. And Clint Murchison, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, received a letter that the Washington Redskins fight song was not patent. So Clint Murchison patented the song and told Marshall that if, in fact, you don't vote for me to get this franchise in Dallas, then you won't have the Redskins fight song. So that's how the rivalry started.
The expansion ragtags from Dallas enraged Marshall even more when they began making a regular habit of beating his Redskins.
Dallas jumps back into the driver's seat. Don Meredith has rushed hard but manages to connect with Billy Houghton. Houghton sets sail for the end zone and he makes it in on a 44-yard dazzler.
The Redskins quickly realized that it was wise to have their war paint on whenever they squared off against the armed and dangerous Cowboys.
I remember a couple games against Dallas where they got tough people down there, and they would join at me, and we joined back and forth. And the linebacker, when they were Chuck Howley, they would buzz him out to actually cut my route off before I got into the pattern. And Chuck was being kind of physical. He was punching me a couple of times, and I said, "Hey, Chuck, it's only a game, man, and he'd come out and punch him again."
It was a bitter rivalry. It was tough. It was aggressive, and there was not a lot of friendship between the players during those years. We had some fantastic games. They were not always championship games, but for us, they were with Washington.
As the 1960s ended, the Cowboys were kings of the Eastern Division, while the Redskins lagged far behind. But a new football administration in the nation's capital would soon bring winning back to Washington. When George Allen became the head coach of the Redskins in 1971, he brought with him infectious enthusiasm and a collection of old pros who knew how to win in the NFL.
The Redskins were hungry for a victory. They were hungry for any kind of a successful season. They hadn't had a championship in 30 years.
What I tried to dwell on is that you're in the nation's capital. You're representing the nation. And I felt that way myself. We had a special mission.
He'd say Tex Ram put the Cowboys in there because he thought that the East Division was patsies, that the Redskins would never be anything, and that it was a setup by the league to make sure that the Cowboys always got to the playoffs.
Roger, stop looking company.
Roger Staubach, Tom Landry, Tex Ram. Here we go. The fact that Dallas was so good, they had won the division 5 straight years, and I remember making a statement that if we can't beat Dallas, there's no sense in issuing the equipment.
But I remember George always saying that, you know, if it was up to him to have the outcome of the game, he would like to fight Tom Landry on a 50-yard line of the game if that what it meant to win. I don't think he'd have won.
Go hard, go hard, go hard. Okay, that's the way to find daylight. That's the way to find daylight. Okay, that's the way
Tom
to
Landry,
go.
their practice field, there's some apartment buildings nearby. They had the police clear the apartments. They were sure George had spies everywhere.
Boy, that's the way to go.
He made up all these goofy stories, got us to hate the Cowboys. The Cowboys, we were just the Redskins, you know what I mean? We meant nothing to them. But George got us so whipped up and fired up that, you know, that we'd go out there and we'd be crazed by the time we stepped on the field. And then in response to our craziness, and they got crazy, so the rivalry developed. But it really came because George had a team which didn't have that much skill.
He built his Redskins up to where they were about to pop. And they were so emotionally high, buddy, that if you walked in that stadium, you better have your guns on because they were coming after you. It was, I'm telling you, I might say I hated him, but he had his boys ready to play.
The Redskins were out for blood when they met the Cowboys for the 1972 Conference Championship.
Kilmer drops straight back. Being rushed, throws his pass to the end zone to Taylor. Touchdown, Washington.
Die, you dogs, die! Die, you yellow dogs! Die!
After this punishing war of attrition, the Redskin-Cowboy rivalry was never the same.
Trying to create a hatred between both teams and just hoping that our team hated them more on Sunday than they hated us. And those games that we hated them more, we always won.
The following season, a national audience witnessed the feud in all its fury.
We went to Washington to play on a Monday night. I never was ever in a game like I was in that night. It's a wonderful football game. True hard-hitting, players swearing at other players, players swearing at the other coaches. It was a hatred type of deal. We hated each other, and they beat us. Last play of the game, Walt Garrison caught the ball on the 1-inch line, getting ready to score, and Kenny Houston stopped it. And I was a rookie, and I had thought I'd never, ever played in a game like that before in my life.
It was not a war story, but rather a fairy tale, when a Dallas benchwarmer replaced an injured Roger Staubach and made magic in Texas Stadium.
Clinton Longley is the hope of all obscure players. You know, that come off of the bench in a tight situation and go to and have the great glory he had that afternoon. That was a tremendous performance. You just couldn't believe it. You know, when you lose your quarterback and you're up against Washington, who's a good football team, and you're behind to start with, you don't expect things to happen like that.
Landry came and said, well, they're talking. Said they're going to knock Roger out, and all we've got left is that rookie, you know, nameless rookie. And then he just kind of would turn his head and look at me like this, you know, like, well. But I was confident, you know. I felt like at the time I was a gunfighter with a football. If there was somebody open, I could hit him.
Longley brought his team from far behind, leading Dallas to 3 touchdowns and a win over Washington for the most thrilling game ever played in the Cowboys' traditional Thanksgiving series. But no Dallas rally will ever surpass Roger Staubach's heroic performance in the final week of the 1979 season. Both teams needed a victory to make the playoffs, and such high stakes made for high drama.
From the beginning to the end, it was comebacks by both teams, and we came back 21-17 and looked like we had total control of the game, and then all of a sudden we didn't have any control of the game.
Theismann delayed play to Riggins, coming to the right side, and Riggins has a big hole, first down the sideline, 40, 30, he's gone to the 20, the 10, he's still on his feet, touchdown, and that may be more than the Cowboys can overcome.
I was recording the game with KRLD as a guest broadcaster that day. In my heart, I believed that the Cowboys were going to win the game. And my announcer, the co-announcer with me, Brad Shim, kept saying, "Hey, Charlie, there's no way. The game's over." So, Brad, hey, you got to believe that this team can win, that if we could just get the ball back to Roger somehow.
Clock is running, 2:38 left in the game. Shotgun formation, Staubach throwing, caught, springs.
Go. Touchdown.
Touchdown, Rod Springs. How can you live like this, doing this every week?
This is what it's all about.
This is a killer. 42 seconds left in the game. Redskins lead by 6. Second down and 8 from the 8-yard line. No shotgun this time. Staubach throwing in the end zone. Tony Hill, touchdown! Tony Hill! The Cowboys have won the East. The Cowboys have come from behind twice, unbelievably.
It took 3 years, but to Washington, it was worth the wait for a full measure of Redskin revenge. For the second time in their history, the two teams met in the conference final, and once again, the Redskins crushed the Cowboys on the scoreboard and in the trenches.
I make plays against Dallas. I mean, I play with a lot of emotions against Dallas, and so it's like being in the alley at 3 or 4 in the morning and a rainy night, and you got a couple of Doberman pinchers. You don't know which one gonna bite you, or you don't know if you're gonna bite them back. You know, it's a real nasty game.
First, Manley leveled their quarterback, then made the play that clinched a championship.
Screen. Oh, what a play! Dexter Manley tipped the pass, picked off by Darryl Brand. Touchdown, Washington Redskins! I don't believe it! Oh, they're going crazy at RFK. Look at this! Look at this!
Washington went on to win its first Super Bowl, then opened the following season with what appeared to be another Redskin rout over Dallas. Instead, they were about to be victimized by a stunning Cowboy comeback.
Well, we were very frustrated at halftime because they'd pretty much shut us down. Came out the second half, we did the things that we felt going into the game that we could do, and all of a sudden they started opening up for us. I've always looked forward to playing the Redskins because they play the type of defense that you can hurt if you execute properly, especially in the passing game. And that was the key to the victory and being able to come back, especially in Washington, where the crowd becomes such a big part of the game. It was a tremendous thrill to quiet that crowd down in the fourth quarter once we took the lead.
You know, we went in at halftime figuring that, you know, we were going to have to come out the second half, the third quarter, and start off fast with a fast start, and that's exactly what we did. We got the ball and we started going up and down the field like they weren't out there, and that would have to be one of the all-time great Cowboy comebacks in my opinion.
The rest of the 1980s were dominated by the Redskins, who made 2 more Super Bowl appearances while their traditional rivals from Texas sank to the bottom of the standings.
Rader blitzes on, gets it away into the blitz, got it up to Didier on the far side, caught it at midfield. He breaks it down to the 40, to the 30, to the 20, the 15, the 10. He's going all the way. Touchdown, Washington Redskins.
The Cowboys' most embarrassing loss came at the end of the 1987 labor strike, when a Redskin squad of replacement players beat a veteran-laden Dallas team on national television. By the end of the decade, the Redskins were winning so often that it became difficult to take the Cowboys seriously.
We were playing against Dallas Cowboys, and I had some pretty good success with it. I was able to get after Aikman a few plays and rush him throwing the ball. I stepped one way and then I reached out, and it's like you would see a turtle do, like put his head in the shell, kind of raise up his shoulder pads and try to stick his head in there trying to get away from this club. And I hit him with it anyway and was able to get through there and rush Aikman.
Dallas finally regained some respect in 1989. They won only 1 game that season, but it came at the expense of the Redskins, giving new coach Jimmy Johnson his first NFL victory. A year later on Thanksgiving Day, the Cowboys engineered their biggest win in recent memory with an upset over Washington.
The Redskin win on Thanksgiving, I think because we were going up against a playoff team, a team that was regarded as one of the teams that would make a playoff run. It always finished strong. Beating them in front of a national audience was a key game for us.
Since I've joined the team, our rivalries have taken a back seat because of the way that the Cowboys have been playing, the drop-off in the team. Some of the older players that are here that have been through those better times explained to us what the rivalry means to them. So it's still a big game. Since things have picked up, you kind of sense a little bit of it when you go out and play.
5 to 30. He'll never beat Green. There's the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5. Touchdown, Evan Smith.
He made Darryl Green miss.
The NFL's fiercest rivalry appears to be regaining its vigor, an intensity that was recaptured in 1989 when the great stars from the Redskins and Cowboys past returned to Texas Stadium for a charity flag football game. The players sported a few more pounds and a bit less hair, but the emotions of the rivalry remain alive and well.
This is the over-the-hill gang. All right.
What about the game plan for these Redskins, and in particular George Allen?
Well, I'm gonna check his signs over there. He's usually licking his his fingers. He probably got something going on over there.
That afternoon, the Redskins and Cowboys turned back the clock one more time.
Just remember this, 40 men together can't lose, okay? You were always tougher and smarter and together, see? And now, 15 men together can't lose. What do you say? Look at Riggins go, hey? Gee, he can still run.
The Cowboys and Redskins could still mix it up, as some of the old animosities were bubbling near the surface.
Hey, you slap me in the face again, I'm gonna slap you in the face.
Line up.
Arnold, don't do it anymore.
Just like the old days, the Redskins zeroed in on Roger Staubach. And just like the old days, the Cowboys had all the best athletes. Dallas won this game, but the Redskins were winners as well, rekindling the fighting spirit of the NFL's greatest rivalry.